Hello! Today we are here to talk about Simurgh. I don't know if that's exactly how you pronounce
Sure.
it. Simurgh, something like that. This game was a Gen Con pickup. We found a little booth there that was selling. This is what NFKN, NSKN. What's it?
Actually, I forgot to write down who produced it. Yeah, it's NSKN Games. Yep.
Okay.
But actually, it's pretty old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know how old it was because I thought you were saying it was a Gen Con game. I was like, I thought it'd be newer than one.
No, I picked it up at Gen Con. I think I bought a lot of games blind that year because I had some excess cash when I went there, and I thought, oh, I like the art on the games, and I just kind of bought it.
How deceiving that was once you find out.
We'll see. But yeah, as far as this game, the dragon theme and the different art on it reminded me a lot of the type of games that I liked.
Right.
And it's a worker placement, and at that point, it was earlier in the worker placement.
And we love worker placement games.
Yeah, so I grabbed it along with, I think, most everything they produced at that booth. So I got a lot of games.
NSKN had some good games.
Yeah. So tell us about this.
Before I start, though,
hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Don't want to miss out on any of these more obscure games or the more popular ones.
All right, so this actually came out in 2015. It's ranked at 6.7 overall, 3,043. It's designed by Pierluca Zizzi, and my obligatory apologies. I'm not going to be able to pronounce all these correctly. But art is Engar Adarasa, Agnieszka Kopera, and Odysseus Stagmoglu or something to that effect. Again, I'm sorry. This is an out-of-print game. I couldn't find it anywhere. But the price range did go from $19.99 up to $55 via whether it's eBay, Geek Market had it for $19, Amazon had it for like $35. So
you still find it reasonable.
Yeah, you can still get it, but it's just not in print any longer.
So let's talk about the quality of the components. So the pieces, the tiles actually have a linen finish, which is nice. It's kind of surprising.
And it's pretty good thickness of cardboard.
But as far as the pieces, the wood bits, they're very generic. They're just wooden cubes for wood and stone.
And the meat looks like thought bubbles.
Yes.
So it's like...
red thought bubbles.
Yeah. What did Robert say?
He's thinking about meat. And then you've got your vegetables, I guess.
Right. It's grass. No, that's grass.
That's grass?
That's grass.
I thought it was vegetables.
No, it's grass.
Okay. You have cardboard scrolls.
We don't know if it's stone or metal. It's one or the two.
Yeah, they look like kind of metal ingots, but then it could be stone. Don't really know. But yeah, it's
weapons.
Yeah, and weapons. They're just little stabbies.
Yeah.
So nothing exciting about the components. So your player or score tokens are just little cardboard circles.
Yeah.
And what more problematic, the red player token looks almost identical to the dragon tokens.
Yes.
And it's easy to mix those up and when you're putting it away. So we almost put it away with the thing mixed in, and I had to make sure that Caleb pulled it out.
And then the player cards that keeps your stuff organized is not designed to fit the resources that they give you. Yeah. So some of them are quite a bit larger than the squares that you organize them on.
Yeah, although I will say these were fairly effective.
As far as the cheat part of it goes, yeah, absolutely. Right. I think it did all our actions. It explained them well.
Yeah. And it's two-sided because there's two ways to play the game, although there's not a lot of variance between the two.
Right.
So the Spearman mode is kind of the standard basic mode.
And that's what we played in.
The advanced mode, if you will, is the Dragon Lord mode, and you flip it over to the other side. It gives you different instructions on how to play your turn, but it's not much different. It's mostly in-game scoring points that you could get. It's slightly different.
A little bit of a drafty element, but
yeah,
that's it.
So as far as quality of components, I'll probably give it a 6. I think is where I'm at. It's only because it's got a really nice board. It's a big board, and I do like the linen finish on the cardboard.
I agree with 6. The wooden bits are not any better Catan. No. What's better is the cardboard element is much thicker, linen finish, and so I like that part of it. So that ekes it out a little bit higher.
Yeah. So as far as theme, it is obviously your dragons.
Standard fantasy.
Yeah, this feels very loose on here. It's definitely completely layered on.
Yeah.
It could be anything, but it's kind of nice that it's dragons because the dragon art is interesting.
Yes.
The board itself is busy. It's very busy. It almost is another one of those games where they drew this really pretty picture, and we got to put spaces on it, and they just slapped them on top of this picture. There's no
the action spaces don't make sense where they're located.
Yeah, and just trying to look at this pretty landscape behind it. You see that more than you see the action spaces, which is kind of a problem. I like the art. It'd be nice to be able to see the art without the board actually on top of it.
Yep.
But if I want to play the game, I need to care about the action spaces.
Yeah, the graphic design could have been better for the layout of the board.
They completely fade away into the backdrop. And, as far as just, you get this pretty board, and then nothing else is pretty about it. The player tokens, they're plastic and they're standees. They're kind of cool from that standpoint.
They're okay,
but they're
but they're just cutouts.
Yeah, they're cutouts. I think this is the same thing we saw with the captain is dead, but that at least it was like painted art.
I think that now since this is 2015, they may not have thought of it, but I like some of the clear acrylic with the painted on. Mm-hmm. That would have been much cooler for this. I think that would have really done a lot, but that may not have been a thing in 2015.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, I really want to like the theme of this because I like the dragons and the art of the board, but it just doesn't play into the gameplay at all.
Right. It just could have been the graphic design just could have been so much better, and it would have made it a better game. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I can't give it too many kudos.
So I'm kind of torn on this because art-wise, I probably would have given this a 6, but the fact that it hinders gameplay, I think I'm going to pull it down to a 4.
I agree because if we look at Catan as our standard, it's pretty. Catan is so well laid out; it's easy to know what you need to do and where you need to do it. And this is so much more confusing because of the busyness of the layout and the graphic design of the board. I think a 4 is a good score.
So, moving on to rules. The rule book is 16 pages long. It's got a nice, pretty cover on it. As far as the contents, it's a lot of text. There are some big pictures of the board and everything. But it was very hard to follow. When you're going through this book, especially when you got to the instructions, the board, it's numbered like one is down here, and 2's up here, and 3's over here, and 4's over there. There was no cohesiveness to how it was.
Yeah, the flow of it didn't make any sense.
We were jumping all over the place, and the buildings look so much alike on the map, and it's using the buildings as a reference point to the actions. But the actions aren't really even laid out on top of the buildings. They're kind of near the buildings. And
that's my problem with the layout, is the actions themselves blend into the board so well, it's hard to see them.
Yeah.
Because if they just popped out a little bit more, or if they weren't part of the board, like if they were offset of the board or something, then I think that would have been a whole lot easier to figure out what the actions were.
Yeah.
But they were very hard to see and be able to figure out the value of them.
Yeah, I will say that a lot of the iconography is pretty simplistic. And
it is. And that's a good thing.
Yeah,
I think the iconography is easy to figure out. It's just hard to see it.
Yeah. So I think the rules overly complicated the game because once you actually play the game,
once you got into it, it's really a very simple game.
It's a very basic.
It is.
To the detriment of the game, which we'll get to in gameplay. But I think the rules made it sound so much worse, and this is 16 pages.
And there's a lot of appendices type of reference.
I like that. The only problem
I do too.
The appendices are really nice big numbers, and they get clear as far as what the actions do to help you. But the tiles, the number on the tile, first of all, it's in a little tiny font.
It's so hard to see it. You're not going to be you might be able to see it when Randy posts the pictures, but it's a very little number underneath the banner.
In white on a cloud.
And that's what you have to use to reference in the book. So my eyesight's not the best, so I'm like really having a hard time trying to read that number.
Yeah, but I mean, on top of that, it's on a cloud
Yeah.
in the sky. It's not even, you know, if it's one thing, if it was down here in the corner where it's dark,
Yeah.
grassy or mountainous.
Where the contrast would be able to
But they
highlight
put it right up at the top near
Yeah.
the sky. I mean, it's just, this is kind of a ludicrous
It
arrangement.
washes so into the color.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to see it.
So, yeah, or make the color not white.
Yeah.
You know,
Or make it
that's
black.
simple.
Something to stand out.
Yeah, because it was very tough. And
It really was.
we were playing late at night, pretty tired, and we had, well, semi-late at night. Tired, though, from
Yeah,
a
we were
full
tired.
day.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had some older people with bad eyesight, you know. So, yeah, it was not very
Yeah.
useful to have that
Yeah,
number.
it's definitely not user-friendly. It's not player-friendly.
So, you know, given all of that, I think this rule book really is probably a 4. It's more complicated than it needs to be. The way
layout
it's laid
sucks.
out, trying to reference the board is awful. And the fact that the appendices, which are actually really useful, if you knew what number the tiles were,
Right.
it's made almost impossible to use because the font is so small on those tiles. So yeah, I think 4 is about where I am.
I didn't read the rule book, but we did reference the rule book a lot because there's quite a bit of confusion initially in the game, and we had a hard time figuring stuff out. So I can't agree more. I think a 4 is a good score.
And as far as gameplay now, so this is where the detriment of the simplicity of the game shines. So basically, you have workers. You start the game out with one dragon and one spearman. And then you have 2 spearmen and a dragon in your reserve that you can add.
Rider.
Yes. You'll end up getting a stack of tiles from the pool that are different varieties of tiles. Everybody will get a dragon to start the game out, which gives you special abilities, which was my favorite part of the game.
I agree.
They all have 3 action spaces on them that you can use at your leisure as free actions by spending the dragon token. But there are ways to replenish those tokens.
Some of them. Some of them are one time only for the entire game.
Yes.
The majority, though, were multiple use if you get your tokens back.
Yes. What we didn't know at the beginning is that, as you'll find out, the scoring mechanism, you add in tiles, and I like this aspect of the game too, but the scoring tiles, you kind of got as an action to add them, so you didn't know how to score the game until those tiles were chosen, because that's the majority of your points in the game that you don't earn just during the course of the game. That's all the in-game scoring. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But you're going to take an action. It's very simplistically, you're going to assign it to one of the action spaces, which are any of the circles you see on the board. Either individual circles where only one person can play, or multiple circles. Now, if they have a dragon pictured on them, you cannot assign your spearmen. You have to use your dragon. Dragons can be assigned any space. Spearmen can only be assigned to ones that don't have a dragon logo. Spaces. When you go to the space, the iconography will tell you basically what you get or what you have to spend. Most cases, it's got to cost you. If it's got a minus, you're going to spend a resources. You're got an arrow to give you something. So it's very Lords of Waterdeep-esque as far as the gameplay, and the iconography in general is pretty clear. Mm-hmm. Now there are a few that were a little more vague, where you could spend a whole bunch of stuff to go through the dragon pile, draw 3 tiles, pick one, and then put 3 tokens on that specific tile. But it doesn't say that. It just says you get 3 tokens.
Right.
You could have implied that to be, I can play it on any dragons I have. So they're a little bit ambiguous, but they're not bad. They're pretty good. The other thing you can do on your turn, at the beginning of your turn, as a free action, is take one of the tiles you have in your hand and play it to the board into the wilds. And this is really where the game broke down.
Yeah.
The concept I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the thing. We both think that there's a potential that this game could have been really good.
I think they're inside this trappings of this game. You could make a really good game. And I think This may be one I actually do try to house rule.
Yeah, generally I hate that, but there's enough stuff that made this interesting enough to where if I think what we thought about as far as house rules go, we could make it a good game.
Yeah, and it wouldn't take a lot.
It really wouldn't.
So the main fault we found in this game is that when you play a tile into these areas, you may, well, it depends on the tile. Sometimes you must, but some you may. If it's one of the dragon tiles that has a trail, you must play a dragon to it. It can't be
if you can't afford the payment and the dragon, you can't play the tile.
Right. The other tiles, though, you can, if you choose, play a worker to it. You don't have to. So you can play the tile because when you place a tile, whatever the space is on, you just get that as a perk for playing the tile until you run out of spaces, which we'll get to in a moment. If you choose to, you can assign a worker, and most of them have where multiple people can go to the work there. But it can't be your same person. It can't be, I couldn't play there twice. It would have to be me and somebody else playing there. There's 3 individual spaces where only one person can go, and then there's the shared space where any number of people can go. The thing is you're either playing your workers to the board or you're recalling them. So on my turn, I can skip or lose my entire turn to recall all my workers, and here's where the problem lies. If I recall my worker from the tile and there's no other person on the tile, that tile is removed from the game.
It's called in the Chronicle.
And it goes to the Chronicle, and that means that it's completely out of the game, and this opens up a space for a tile. Alternatively, if there's all the spots are full and you still want to play a tile, you can use one of the weapon tile arrows to eliminate a tile from the board, except for the ones that have the trail on them.
Mm-hmm. And if anyone's on there, they get their guys back so they can use it a later time.
So the tile gets removed and goes to the Chronicle as well. The problem is this game ends when the Chronicle reaches a certain number of tiles, and the short game is 8 tiles. The game ends way too fast. Quickly. It is even the long game, I believe, is 14 tiles, and that and
we saw some other written reviews that even the long game was too short.
Yeah, the problem is to develop any strategy with the in-game scoring up here. You need way more rounds than that.
And the key thing is resources. You got to have resources to do stuff, and it's so variable in your resources because you got. The ones with the stars are generally the ones that you make resources, where there's only so many of these in here. And you get them out, which is great. You make some resources, but again, as soon as this gets cleared out, it goes to the Chronicle. Now you don't have your resource maker anymore. So you would think that would slow the game down, but it didn't. It was at the same speed, but then you couldn't do all the really good actions to be able to potentially score your points. You were just going through tiles super quick and ending the game faster than it should.
So the dragon tiles were a nice touch because they gave you these special perks where if you remove the thing, you could add it back on. A lot of them gave you resources, and it was a better way of getting the resources than what the board offered, which the spaces on the board were nowhere near as good as the tiles nor your dragons.
So, these are usually really expensive for very little value.
Yeah, so we found very few of them we ever used.
Right.
And we spent most of our time burning through tiles, which ended the game super fast. And the development of the adding on these scoring tiles, basically if you take the action of this tile, you assign your dragon to it, and you draw 3 of these in-game tiles, and you get to pick one, and I love that.
Yeah, but this is another fast way to end the game.
Well, it can end the game this way, but we didn't come close to ending it that way.
I think it could have been. Well, I think it could have been because there's no real cost associated with going here.
Yeah.
So you could go there for nothing, pop out a tile, and
there is cost because when you're playing onto the space, there's cost,
but
and you get victory points. But it's very minimal compared to these tiles.
You get a whole lot more.
Yeah, the tiles you play over here, depending on the luck of the draw, which ones you get, there's some that are worth a lot of points.
Yeah, I had some. Well, again, I ran out of resources, but I had some that were really valuable.
Yeah, and now on the tiles, we talked about the different action one, but there is the one where you have a trail. I like the concept of this if you had more time. But you have a space where you have to use your dragons on these trail ones. You assign it, and then each turn you can spend resources as depicted on the tile to move down and get the perk of each level of this until you reach the bottom.
And more often than not, it's victory points, and some of them quite a bit.
No, I wouldn't say it's more often than not. I think some of them there's a balance. I think there's victory points on every one, but I think Caleb had one where it was victory points at every step of the way.
Yeah, and mine,
and
I had some in my hand. I just didn't get the resources to be able to play it.
Yeah. So, these tiles were overpowered, and Caleb ran away with this game. And it was because he was managing the clock, because he was at that end of the table. So he knew when we were getting close to 8 tiles, and we didn't know that. So he burned the clock when he had a substantial lead. So the tile placement up here was almost irrelevant. There's just so much of a overpowering of burning the clock and ending the game. This game could literally end in 15 minutes.
It could.
And there's just no time to develop this engine up here. And I love the engine up here.
I do too. And the other thing that's kind of neat about it is that, there's only 2 tiles that give you victory points, either based off of tokens or the 2 resources. Everything else is based off of the type of dragons that you get for your dragon cards. And so there's a lot of interesting, and it's not just if you have that dragon, it's whoever has the most tokens on that type of dragon scores the most points. That's an interesting element in the game.
Yeah, so collecting dragons is really
kind of fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
But the dragons are so expensive to get.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it costs you one of everything.
One of everything to get one dragon to add to your set. Now, I did have a couple tiles that came up that I had one that gave you a dragon. One gave you one of these dragons, and I have several that gave me the other workers. But the cost of getting that dragon on the tile was cheap, but the odds of you getting that draw were so slim. And this is the only way to get one otherwise.
And the cost of this is so much more expensive versus what you usually can do to go down the trail.
Yeah.
And so that's how Caleb really did it, where kind of Randy and I was up here doing this. He focused on that. He was able to get a whole lot further, a whole lot quicker than we did up here.
Yeah, so there's a balancing issue because of the burn rate of these tiles. Because it would be one thing if the tile stayed there unless somebody played one of the arrows to remove it. But once there's nobody on the tile, it automatically clears out. We did not like that. So that was our biggest beef with the game. And we think it would be very simple just to eliminate that rule.
Part of the rule. The only way to get rid of the tile is with a weapon.
So, just not having, any workers on. I would even be okay with the other option, which is if 4 workers are on there, then it would eliminate.
Okay.
I think that would be fair because we never saw it happen to begin with. But I think that would be fine. I think the big problem is just when it's empty, because if you recall your workers, that's going to empty it if you're the only one on the tile. Mm-hmm. And that's where it just rapidly cleared out. So I think that's our biggest problem with this game.
But it's huge, though.
Yes.
It made a huge difference.
Yes, it turned,
and it turned. Again, it's got possibility, but I didn't enjoy it.
No, it was not fun because of it. It was bland. It took us a lot of trouble to figure out what the spaces were because of the art getting in the way. And the fact that the scoring, the main strategy of the game was eliminated just by that.
Yep.
So I have to say, in its present form, we always rate what's in the box and the way the rules are written. I'm going to give this probably a 3.5.
I think I was only going to go with 3. I mean, it's just the parts that were so irritating are just so irritating that it just, and the fact that it could have been so much better makes it even worse.
Yeah, because I said, if I think we took that rule out and we played it again, I could see this becoming a 6. I don't see it going like super high because it's just too basic of a game.
Well, not only that, I think that if they would fix the art problem and the graphic design, and we fix that, it could be a 7 for me because then it'd be easier to see it. I would rank that a little bit higher, but the way it is out of the box, I can't go higher than a 4.
Yeah, it's just very problematic, and it's very frustrating because I wanted to like this game because it's just, I like the dragons, I like the I like the strategy.
I like elements of it.
I like the fact that you don't see that enough, where you can build the scoring mechanism as an optional action,
and you actually get to choose what those are.
Yeah.
I mean, again, your choice is limited, but you still have some control over that.
Right.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, because then you can plan for it. The thing is it's revealed to everybody, so it's an open knowledge once you flip the tile. But you can choose if you get 3 tiles and one of them is more.
If you know you already have more of an advantage than others, that's the one you're going to pick.
Yeah. So I think that part of the game, and also the fact that your dragons gave you the special abilities.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have just been a collection set, set collection type thing.
Right.
But in this, they gave you those abilities, and I thought that was a really cool concept. And it was something I wanted to see done well, and it just didn't happen. And that was very disappointing. Like you said, it's something you came in hoping for more, and the whole time we played, I was hoping
it got better.
It was going to not fizzle, because it really could have been good. So, any other thoughts?
No, I was pretty disappointed with the game, and that in of itself is a disappointment, because I was expecting more and hoping for more, because it looks cool.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, that's our thoughts on Simurgh
or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yep. So, please, if you enjoy this and want to see more of these games, hit that like and subscribe button down there.
And let us know if you played this game and you have a different opinion. Please let us know.
Yeah.
Because if you have a different take, maybe you can change our mind, and so make us think a different way. But let us know.
All right. Well, until next time. Bye.
Bye.